morning, gang, and welcome to what's going to be a big one. So this is Hollywood Hills coming at you now, reporting back on the first round of GXCCs for 2019. It's tough to know where to start with this one, I've got to say. You know, there's so many categories. I've been covering the GXCCs for the last 3 years. This is the magical year number 4. Last year, their numbers were averaging out around about 365 or 370. They topped out at just under 450. And I think their lowest entry number was quite late in the year last year, around 5 or 6, where they had just over 300. So we were predicting around about the 400 marker for everyone wiping the sleep out of their eyes and getting going racing. 415 or 416 was the number in the end, and I'd like to say a very good thing happened as well in the build-up to the opening round of the GXCCs, and that was that everything went online entry. So that really improved how the management of the documentation process ran. A lot of the times the day license riders can make up over 100 riders, so I think it was a really good thing that they did to actually go full online, and that meant that the guys can go and buy their day license online at MSA. That really helped things out. So also the timing of the race, the weekend after Valentine's Day, and normally I think we would run the first GXCC around about 2 weeks earlier. So I had this weird feeling the whole way through the year going, I'm sure we started earlier. And I went back and checked some of the other calendars, and yeah, we ran around about 2 weeks later in the year. The cool thing, of course, about that though is we'll run 2 weeks deep at the end of the year, and where I think end of last year was late October was the last round of the GXCCs. The final round of the GXCCs this year, with them running 8 rounds of the championship, pushes us into November. So it makes the racing year nice and long, gives us some good gaps to work with, and also allows some wiggle room for the rest of the tours. So the main theme for this round of the GXCCs, and it's going to be a theme that will continue throughout 2019, but this is where we start to see different names. And the reason we see different names is this is the best part of the sport as far as I'm concerned. I've been in the sport for now 16 years, and it's the first round of the season where you get to see the kids having had moved up through the age categories. A lot of the pro guys will kind of stay in situation. There may be a little bit of movement every now and again. We'll cover those when we get into the pro categories, but it's the kids, the future of the sport, that really shows how much growth and movement there is. And you're going to see some new names, new faces, and new winners on the tour as well, especially in the 50cc and 65cc categories, where, you know, the guys that have really been kind of like ruling the roost for what seems like a long time, but it's not. It's just that they were really strong the whole way through last year, and possibly the year before. They've now moved out. So in the 50cc category, you talk about Clarkey. You know, Clarkey was almost untouchable the whole way through last year on junior enduro events and the GXCCs. So Clarkey's up and out, and he's got a gearbox underneath him now, so he's up into the 65s. Same situation for Mackenzie Bam. You know, she was taking a lot of seconds and third places, and the last of the Mohicans actually was struggling to get onto the box. That's Hanyu de Kock. Towards the end of last year, Hanyu started to show some really good pace, and he's now stayed in the 50cc's. He doesn't bounce up to the 65s. Hanyu de Kock was your first winner on the 65cc. Sorry, the 55. Let me get that right. The 50cc gate. So Hanyu de Kock gets us up and rolling as we now start to look at what is a stacked gate in the 65s. So 65cc's in the past has always been about 3 real main players, and that's been little Zach Johnson, Kerbis Bester, Baby Bester as I like to call him, and Johnny Luck. So Johnny Luck, we always knew he was only going to be in that category for a very short period of time. He outgrew it super quick, and he's now moved up into 85cc junior category. So it was going to be a big question mark as to who was actually going to be a key player, and no one really knew where we were going. Matthew Stewart was the rider that came out. Now Matthew, pretty good 4th, 5th and 6th place finishes throughout last year. 1 or 2 podiums if I do recall, but now he climbs all the way to the ladder. He is the man, or the kid to beat on the 65cc's. But it's not a foregone conclusion yet. There's a couple of other very tasty riders who have just come up from 50cc's and now will get used to the 65s, and they will eventually start climbing the ladder. But Matthew gets the first win for the 85cc junior category, and that is like a one-stop shop. The guys don't tend to spend a lot of time in that category. They jump straight up after year number 1 straight up into 85cc seniors. So it was Kobus Bester. I'm not going to beat around the bush on this one. He did look like he was going to be an outright favorite on the gate. He got used to the machine last year, and he is on the machine again this year. So he knows what bike's underneath him. He's familiar with his terrain. He's very, very, very experienced coming out of, I think, the last 3 years he's been with us. His dad, Steph Bester, racing in the Masters quads. So we have had Kobus Bester along for the ride. So this is his 4th year of racing GXCCs. He must have only been about that big when he started. So he is the first winner on the gate for that category before he moves up next year into the big wheelers, and that's where it becomes really hard to really fight against some tasty riders. So I'll go straight forward into that. The 85cc seniors last year was the perfect season for Matty Wilson. You know, he got picked up by the factory supported Husqvarna whole shot squad. That's now Husqvarna whole shot MCA, and he's now moved up into 125s. So we knew no matter what, the 85cc seniors, that's the big wheelers, was going to be absolutely terrifying this year. A lot of kids moved up and out into 125s at the same time. A lot of the small wheel 85s, that's the juniors, moved up into the 85 seniors. So it gave us a massive, massive, massive gate. A lot of guys wanted to go for this one. Troy Johnson was going to be the key player on this gate, on the mechanic Kawasaki, still running the Kawasaki. But it was Kyle McKenzie, another kid that got picked up last season into the MCA whole shot Husqvarna squad, and he has taken a lot of podiums. There were 3 real key players last year on this gate, and that was Matty Wilson, Carl Branson, and Dumel Duplessis, Too Tall, who's now moved up into 125s as well. But every now and again, Mackenzie did come good. That's Kyle. So he took, I think, 3 podiums last year, counting the 1, 2s and 3s. Of course, at GXCC, we podium all the way down to 6th place. So he was top 6 all the way through last year. He stays on the gate. He's moving up to 125s next year. But for now, he pulled the whole shot. He got clear air. He ran the numbers, and he took the number 1 plate heading into the next round. That is our juniors done and dusted. So Carl McKenzie on the senior 85s. He's just got to do one thing only: try and beat the almost unbeaten record of his teammate Matty Wilson that threw down the gauntlet last year. Next up, 125s. The 125 high school gate on 2018, that's last season, had us all going absolutely crazy. It was the first year that we'd run a age group and CC restricted combination category. In other words, the first year all 125 riders were stuck on 125s, not able to go to. In the past, we've had 125s, we've had 200cc smokers, and we've had 254 strokes. So in the past, the bike to be on was the 4-stroke 250s. And that's where Adriano Catalano was dominating 3 years ago. 3 years ago, Adriano was on that. But last year, the 125, the CC category mix tightened things up quite nicely. And it really did become a bit of a leveler. 5 different winners on the tour last year, and one of the breakout stars from the end of last year was Davin Cocker. So little tiny dude, motocross crossover, caught the championship rivals napping, wasn't really in the championship as he only pulled in for the last 3 rounds of the series. It still was the series champion, which ended up being Low Pretorius. So the Vans Racing Husqvarna kid who stays on the same machinery, same support package, and himself, Storm Fulyoun, Nardis Rabi, Ryan Paltzer, all the key riders were going to be in the mix once again. But out the gate this time around, Davin Cocker showed a clean pair of heels to what looked to be around about a 25 rider deep field in the 125 high schools. Paltzer, still calling Mr. 125. He got a number 2 finish, and I think he still is a strong bet for this year. Very, very tasty rider. He beat out his Husqvarna rivals from last year. That was the pairing of Low Pretorius on the Vans Racing Husky and Stormy Fulyoun on the Biker Warehouse Husky. Those were the guys that were really solid and bringing home podiums, if not wins, more times than anyone else. In fact, Stormy took more wins in the 125 than anyone else last year. Unfortunately, his inconsistency when he wasn't winning dropped him down out of the championship. But he's definitely in the fight. He's going to be top 5ing, probably top 3ing most of the way through. But it's Davin Cocker, the winningest rider at the end of last year, that opens up our racing account for the high school 125s at the first round of the GXCCs. So stay with me now as we climb the ladder. OR3s, the old money 200cc class. Reigning champion Darren from the Clan McLeod. gets the move up. Got the nice ride, got picked up by the big MCA whole shot Husqvarna squad, but also at the same time got moved up into OR2. So he's not going to be defending his title, which means we've got a new champion elect coming into the chances of racing and going for another big trophy and number 1 plate at the end of 2019. At the same time, Jared Kutsia, who was probably the biggest threat and the reigning national champion after finally getting that monkey off his back last year, but came into the season with a bit of a broken wing 6 weeks ago, managed to swing a leg over the bike, but not going to be on that gate. He also moves up to 350s into the OR2s. So we start going, well, who's left? Ian Rawle? No, Rawler moved up to the 350s as well. He's on the OR2 gate. So you start seeing a couple of really specialist riders who are just custom made for the 200 or 250cc 4-strokes. Back in the day, when he was still riding for the proudly Bidvest Yamaha squad, it was very hard to beat Stefan van Deventer. He is also on that massive Husqvarna MCA whole shot squad, and he came out the gate swinging hard, got the first win under his belt, and he's going to be a busy kid, believe you me. He's got to try and win every round of the GXCCs, national off-roads, national enduros, and selected enduro events. But we're focusing on GXCCs, and it was Stefan van Deventer who smashed them with a big win at the opening round in the OR3s. OR2s then. You thought the rest of the gates were scary? This is absolutely terrifying. Reigning champ JJ Daisel caught everyone napping at the beginning of 2018 and took it all the way to the line, was never off or outside of a top 3 finish the whole way through the season, and he also took a ton of wins. He's still the man to beat. He lines up on the gate as the firm favorite as well. But then you throw in a huge talent pool. Remember, Jared Kutsia, we've already spoken about him. He moves up. Lo Schmidt, who has been a former national champion in the category, moves back down after trying to race 450s for the last 2 years. Hasn't had any good luck. He's gone back to the old faithful, and he is back on. Stays with Brother Leader Tread Factory KTM, but he goes back to his 350, and it looks like it's a good fit. He got 3rd place, but who ran 1 and 2? Rawler, he's already moved up. We mentioned the fact that he was off the 250s. He stayed on the 250s maybe a little bit too long. McLeod has made the move up as well. Tucky's in the mix there. Travis Gielig. There are just so many riders to choose from on that gate. It's tough to know where to start. So I'm waffling a little bit here. So let's cut to the chase. Who took it? Rawler took it. Ian Rawle, the brawler, just unstoppable on his day on the 250, but always looked like a 350 rider to me and a lot of other riders out there. Took the plunge, got on the 350, and absolutely killed it. JJ, solid performer once again, good enough for a 2nd place. McLeod, also good enough to get onto the box as well. So it's going to be a very tricky one to call, but it's always important to get that first win out of the way. Rawle in the 250 days had some consistency problems. I do believe the 350 will help him out though. He was a bit of an over-ever on the 250. He would hurt the bikes a little bit. He had a lot of bad luck though with rocks and stuff going through his radiators when he was in winning positions. But I really think this might be the year for Double R, that's Rawle Racing. Himself and his brother putting together a great team, a good package, supported by Fast KTM, formerly Factory KTM. So Nathaniel de Amaral, the guys out in the south of Joburg looking after those guys. And it's a good situation, but I think you've got to look deep into the season, and the GXCCs is going to be about Rawler and Daisel. I think they're both super talented riders, super strong, and with a couple of riders literally just throwing a leg over the bike. Tucky's not full fitness yet after his big dive at the end of last season. He literally rolled out the gate so he could get the points on the plate, and he'll be back up to full fitness for the next round, which is in a month's time. But the OR2 gate, huge, just absolutely huge. And once again, it was the brawler, Ian Rawle, taking the first blood. So on to the big bangers, the big gate. Last year, 2 riders were really the class of the field, and that was King Kenny Gilbert and JC Nienauber. Nienauber did a good enough job to get the job done, so he came in as he's not rock and rolling on a big number 1 plate at the moment. Unfortunately, he had a late build-up accident off the track, and he was there, but he wasn't able to go out and defend his crown from the first gate. That said though, he did roll through, and he will be able to throw this race away, but we wish JC a speedy recovery. So he wasn't going to be in the mix. He will be in the mix for the championship, though. He wasn't in the mix at this round. So Kenny was there, and he was always going to be the man to beat when you remove JC out of the mix. But there's a lot of other riders that have made the move up as well. So Loschmidt's out. He goes down to OR3s. Who comes up to fill the spot? Well, no one on the factory KTM squad. Not at the regionals anyway, or GXCCs, but at the nationals. But I'll talk about that when we get into the national scenario. Couple of riders from other squads making the move up. Hein van Niekerk Jr. So last year he started the season in the OR2 category on a 250 smoker, thinking that was the right bet. I think he survived 2 races before he got into the 350, and then he really started to find his feet and kind of develop with the bike and the guys around him. Should have really been on the podium more than he was last year, and I think he just made the wrong decision with equipment and got kind of punished quite hard. By then the guys had really got on with their bikes, and the races were flying. So he stepped onto the big dog now. He stepped onto the 500cc Husqvarna. He's also riding out of the Husqvarna MCA whole shot squad, and he was inside of the top 5 in the early stages. The man that ran on the heels of Kenny when Kenny actually ran out front, by the way, it was D'Artagnan Lobjoy who actually got the whole shot, but went down in flames, I think 3 corners from the whole shot, and then had to catch up. I think he rejoined back just inside or just outside the top 10, and managed to chase his way back into a situation. But it was a tough call for Dart. He definitely should have been running 1 or 2, and he ended up fighting for like 3 and 4 between himself and maybe the riders that he shouldn't have been having to ride with. But that said, there's a lot of tasty riders in the field at the moment. So Charrett fell out on lap number 2. That left a bit of a gap. Kenny was running and hiding. The man who was fastest on laps 2, 3 and 4 though was Hein van Niekerk Jr. He came through quite nicely. At the finish though, it was Kenny. Just inside of a minute behind him was Hein, and literally 10 seconds off his back wheel was 3rd place overall, but winning in the OR2 category, and therefore going fastest overall on the day, and that was Ian Rawle. So he gets the celebration of taking his first overall. And if you think about that, he was just over a minute away from actually taking the flag and clear air and winning the overall. There's not too many guys that have done that. You know, Taki has done it in his day on an OR2 machine, as has Jared Kutsia. But it's very, very, very rarefied atmosphere, the guys that can actually run clear air out front and beat things hands down. But that's it. That is the pro category OR1s. Kenny gets his account open, and Hein van Niekerk has found his seat at the table with a rock solid number 2 finish. Dart improved his ride throughout the day as well and got himself up there into a 3rd place onto the box and some good points on the plate. So that is the pro categories. Next up, ladies. Before we get to the high performers on the ladies category, I need to mention something here. GXCCs has to be the one series that is growing ladies racing more than any other category out there. The ladies turned up over 30 deep on the field. It's the first time I've been on the start line scenario and could actually fill 2 full rows of the ladies out there as well. And there was no one making up numbers. They're all tasty ladies, they're fast, and they've been in the GXCC racing format for all the 3 years now, year 4 that we've been racing on the tour. They know exactly how it plays out, and it's not a foregone conclusion by any means as to who is going to walk away with the wins. With that said though, a new team rolled in. Familiar names on the bars, but a new team, and that's Black Iron Racing. So we're going to be talking about these guys in next week's show as well, as we fully introduce the entire team. But for now, let me introduce you to 1, 2 and 3 on the podium, and that was the Peterson sisters. All riding for the same squad. They're on the Black Iron squad. They've got a couple of different machines underneath them, so there's not one brand that everyone's working with. It's a pure support package for the Black Iron Racing squad. Again, it's going to be all about chasing down Janka. She walked away with the first win of the season. Annika in 2nd and Karika in 3rd place. It's going to be a tough ask to beat these sisters when they are on their day. I think Megan Yonka can maybe set a cat amongst the pigeons every now and again. If Tay Perry would commit to the ladies category and race a 250, she would, I think, hands down be the fastest lady out there, but she's committed to racing in the Pro-Am men's category on a 450. She prefers the bigger power, and she's got some Dakar hopes as well. So we'll be keeping an eye on little Tay to see how she manages and see how she plays in the desert. She's a bit of a desert rat, so we know she's going to be good at sand riding, but she's not done any riding in the dunes yet. Anyway, I'm digressing. So Peterson Sisters and Black Iron Racing running 1, 2, and 3. The first time the Sisters 3 have locked out the podium ever in GXCC racing. So that's very cool and something we will keep an eye on. That should take us now into the age categories. So age categories, the Masters, beginning of last year, it was a flip of a coin, whether it was going to be the 300 Smoker of Insane Wayne Farmer or the big 500cc KTM of Peter Hull. They pretty much duked it out at each round. It did look like Peter had a bit of a handle on the early part of the season, but Wayne was right there, and any mistake was definitely going to be punished. The mistake, though, came not in a race, and it wasn't even the rider's mistake. Wayne, at the halfway mark of the season, I think it was, I can't even remember if it was after the desert or before the desert, but it was after the desert, yes, because I was hanging out with him and Bruce the desert. So after the desert, Wayne went training, I think at Rhino Park, and a bush pig ran out on him and absolutely creamed him off the bike. I mean, he was pinned wide open and just didn't even know what hit him. Well, Wayne, it was a bush pig, just in case you know. Ripped his knee open, did a lot of damage to his neck, and some of the nerves on his shoulder and his right hand got damaged, and he was out for the rest of 2018. That pretty much handed the championship to Peter on a platter, but this year Wayne is back and firing on all cylinders, and once again it was the old war. This time around, Wayne took it and ran and stretched the legs as well. So it was the 300 Biker Warehouse Husqvarna of Wayne Farmer taking the win ahead of Peter Hull. Those will still be the guys to watch as the championship continues. Then on the slightly younger side of the old dudes, it was again the old battle. So last year, Wade Blau picking up a support ride for Roost KTM, stays with Roost KTM. Last year he was on the 300 Smoker on the TPI, and for GXCC racing in the seniors, it's always been a bit of a horsepower category, so it's been 450s and 500s that have been able to take the majority of the wins. So it was a big surprise to see Blau run such good pace on the 300, and just shows how those modern 300s can run. Himself and Bruce Viljoen were war dogs the whole way through. So if one got first, the other got second. If one got second, the other got first. And Bruce, obviously, for years on the Poozy Biker Warehouse Husqvarna, and last year in particular, swinging a leg onto the 450 and absolutely hauling on that thing. Bit of a change up for Bruce this year. Stays with Poozy Biker Warehouse, but he's got picked up on the BCR Honda team. So hasn't had much time on the bike. A little bit of setup, but that's pretty much it. I think he got maybe like 66 hours, not 60, maybe 6 hours on the bike, if that. And then obviously he swung his leg and came racing. So some bedding in and setup problems on the Honda so far, but still good enough for a very solid second place. Once again, it will be Blau and Viljoen going at it to try and win things out on the senior gate. Definitely comes down to whole shot racing with those two, and whoever can hold the front air and just get into their pace and their rhythm early on will be the rider that can possibly go out there and stretch away. But for now, Wade Blau, we salute you, great win, and Bruce, second place, will keep him in the early season championship hunt. That should be all of our two-wheel categories. We'll move across now onto the quads. For the quads, we'll start things out with the ladies. Not big numbers this time around, unfortunately. Just the 5 girls making the gate. It was between 5 and 6 girls or ladies the whole way through 2018, but with the top 2 girls going at it most of the time. Carly Buerta and Marty Backfisher. The championship in the ladies for 2018 came all the way down to the final event. Looked like Carly had it in the bag, to be fair, and she'd controlled the championship most of the way through the year. And then a big mistake, a big problem, a big mechanical as well, caused her to drop down. And Marty, with the final win of the season, took it by just a crumb of points. So Marty came in for 4-2-1 Racing as the favorite and reigning champion. So it's going to be important to get the first hole shot. First hole shot went to Carly Buerta. It looked like Marty didn't get a great jump off the line, but at the same time also made some big mistakes out there. So she actually finished outside of 1, 2, and 3. So that's a big surprise when you see Marty down off the big box in 4th place. For the girls, it was going to be an interesting situation to see who then was going to be able to take the fight to Carly. So let's just move on quickly, because I can see the video is getting a little bit long here. So Carly gets her win. We'll move straight forward into the Masters category. So for the Masters, the winningest rider and the big hole shot hero from last year was another 421 Racing superstar, and that was Brian Herbst. Coming into this round, I had been chatting to Brian. He said his machine had absolutely eaten itself up, so he was going to have to be on the wife's bike. So didn't have any of his settings, wasn't as prepped as his bike, and unfortunately it did show. Didn't get the whole shot, did manage to recover though to a second place. So that's going to keep him in the championship hunt. The win though went to a man who stepped out of Masters for last year. He went and raced in the Q2 category. He wanted to just see what he could do against the young pups. He's gone back into age category racing, and it's a welcome return to the top step to Henny McCall Sr. So the big farm dog is back, and it's going to be a real tussle this time between the key players to watch out for. Swanepoel is there. He was on the box again. Steph Bester on his day can bring it. Herbst and McCall. I think it's a very, very tough Masters gate in 2019. On the Q2s, great situation to see a lot of riders really committing to this one as well. And it's been tough the last few years for everyone racing against Hannes Simon. He has been near on unstoppable. It has to take a mechanical to really have him pull out. He was on the gate again, trying to get another win, and it was a mechanical that sent him out. He got a real good gate, and then early on lap number 1, a massive mechanical failure. His rear hub literally exploding, and that was him out. He didn't waste his money though. He still got back to the pits and went out, and I believe he was in 4th place on the senior men's motorcycles come the finish of that. So he's still got his money's worth at the GXCCs. But it was Stefan Swanepoel, the skinny Stefan Swanepoel as well. He's been coming back into fitness, getting himself back into shape, and we almost lost him to off-road cars. Him and his old man were about to buy a car. The deal fell through, and we get to keep Swanee back on quads for another season. 2nd place went to David Stradum, near Devoltny. David Stradum, who's also been picked up by the full support of 421 Racing, who are now working with Dragon Energy Drinks as well as CST as their support package. So that's very good to see David rewarding them, and he is going to be out there trying to see what he can do about Stefan Swanepoel and the rest. But of course, this means now that Hannes Simon is on the back foot for the championship. But as the throwaway rules go, he did line up, he did start the race. He can throw this race away, so if Hannes is the man for the rest of the year, the other dudes have a problem. But for now, it was Swanee with the first opening round win. And so on to the Q1s. So these are the guys that open up our racing accounts. Great to keep Russman on the gate here as well. He had flirted with going into Old Man Racing and going into the Masters gate. He decided to stick with what he knows, stick with the 450 and stay on the front queue as well. So he stays with the 450 KTM that he prepped and developed last year. And he stays with Diamond Trailers once again, and he was in the queue. As was Keenan Hammond, who ran it real close in the championship for last year until a broken chicken wing at the end sent him out of it. Off the gate though, it was always going to be one man to watch out for. The winningest and most hole-shot-ingest rider on the queue, Gideon Jacobs. Didn't let anyone down, didn't let me down on the mic as well. I called him for the whole shot, he delivered, he ran, no problems on the 421 Racing KTM, got the job done. The surprise though was in the number 2 spot. So at the early part of last year, it was a comeback ride for Jacques Struwik. Busman, as we know him, and I've been commentating on Busman for many, many years. He's a former desert winner. He's raced the Super Series. He's raced a bit of motocross. He is a stalwart of quad racing, but he lined up on a Banshee last year. And I think he just wanted to come and have a little bit of fun and see what he can do. This year he lines up on a fully prepped 450 factory machine. That means he is ready to rock and roll and good to go. He showed that he's been doing a little bit of off-season work, a little bit of training, got himself back into race shape. 2nd place is nothing to be sniffed at for a comeback ride. And that means he is going to be a big threat to Gideon Jacobs. He brings a ton of experience, so Gideon is going to have to watch his back wheel this time around, but great return for Busman for coming out there and lining up, and we can just only hope that he will stay with us for the rest of the tour. Then normally a rider that would race on the Q2s has gone into Q1, so that means he's got to stay on a 450, and he's a big kid as well. And of course, talking about the biggest quad rider we have in the country, and that is Henny McCall Jr. So he got himself onto the box. He spent most of last year on 2 wheels, so he's obviously just getting himself dusted off and getting himself back familiar with his machinery, and obviously him and his dad have been doing plenty of riding out on the farm, and the speed is there and showing. So that was all of our categories for the GXCCs. Before we go into the half-hour marker for this video, let me tell you what else is on the cards for the next couple of weeks. So while we're all still thinking about the GXCC tour, remember, put it in your calendar, 16th of March. So literally 1 month from round number 1, we move forward into round number 2. Make sure you guys get that locked and loaded in your calendar, and we will see you guys out there. Remember, 8 rounds of the championship, 1 throwaway. Make sure you are at all the events to be able to throw away. You cannot throw an event away if you have not lined up to race it. It is not an excuse to say that you simply weren't there. That means you're going to be throwing away some bigger points. You'll be throwing away one of the results that you have scored in. Anyway, that said, the tiniest of tiny gaps this coming weekend. I haven't got anything on the plate, so I'm going to just have a relax, do some training, go for some cycling rides, and have a beer or 7. Seeing as we were all racing on St. Paddy's Day, I've got to still make my quota. So in 2 weeks' time, the next event on the mic, and the next event hopefully to see all you guys at, is going to be the opening round of the Farm Jam. So Farm Jam have got some new venue, some new dirt to play with, some new obstacles, and a brand new track layout. So very exciting times. You know, Leon and the boys from Vans Racing up there have been doing some crazy good work. They've all but flattened the enduro cross and motocross area. They're going to be making much more of a pit village down there, and making sure that the track is a little bit more prepped than it has been in years gone by. So very, very excited. Make sure that you guys keep your speed up. You know, you don't want to be going GXCC to GXCC. Try and throw in a Farm Jam, and if you're up in the area as well, try and throw in one of the 424 events. Very, very good training to keep you guys speed up. But right now we're promoting the Vans Racing Farm Jam round number 1, 2nd of March, 2 weeks time. So just enough time for you guys to get your bikes cleaned and prepped from the GXCC. Line yourselves up there. I'm going to wrap this one up next week. Stay with us, because I'm going to be introducing you to the big squad for Black Iron Racing. We've already talked about the 3 girls, but there are other people on the queue as well, and they're going to be coming on board with Hollywood Hills. So we're going to give them a nice big warm hug, and in digital language that means we're going to be introducing you to our new partners and all of their riders under the Black Iron Racing colors. For now, sorry about that. GXCC round number 1 always going to be a biggie, but that's me back in the groove. Hopefully you guys are as well. And tune in next week when we bring you all of the rest that is happening. The week after that, of course, we will review what went down at Farm Jam round number 1. Laters.